This episode of The Loyal Sun Show is brought to you by Rendine Consulting. If you've listened to us for any amount of time, you know all about Rendine Consulting's commitment to the Pitt Athletics program and brand, and how much they've meant to the Loyal Suns. That's Rendine Consulting, providing investment managers assistance with technology integration. Visit www.rendineconsulting.com for more information. That's www.rendineconsulting.com.
Hello and welcome back to The Loyal Sun Show. That's at The Loyal Suns on Twitter and Instagram. Follow us there and follow us here for Pitt sports content you won't want to miss. If you hate ref shows, this is the place for you. The Loyal Sun Show, a safe, sunshiny place for your Pitt Athletics fix, presented by Section 5. My name is David, and I'm joined, as always, by Squid and Dylan, and we have a wonderful show for you today. Pitt sports writer for the Post-Gazette, Noah Hiles, called in to talk about basketball, and boy, did we. But before we cut to Noah very shortly, is there any cleanup you guys have that we didn't cover, talking about the Virginia Tech game or the win midweek, that you'd like to share with us?
I think we talked about it a little bit, but I think everyone needs to take a deep breath. It's okay. Pitt can lose. Pitt can lose games. I know we don't like to face that reality, but luckily they've put themselves in a good enough position where a loss doesn't knock them out of the tournament, especially a loss on the road against a pretty solid Virginia Tech team. So take a deep breath. The loss sucked, but we're still in good shape.
Yeah, I guess we didn't even touch about the Boston College game. That was a big win. I mean, we blew the brakes off Boston College. Team looked as good as they've ever been, so don't forget that. That Pitt team still exists. VTech just had our number that night. You can kind of just tip the cap and move on to the next.
Yeah, I mean, we're just minorly handicapped between fouls and not being able to shoot the three. But we can still do stuff. We did stuff against Boston College. But more importantly, from my perspective, it feels so good to be hurt again by Pitt basketball, because there's nothing they could do for like the last 6 years to hurt me. And now they have that ability again. And we only got from point A to point B because they became good at basketball again. So you know what? There's a silver lining in everything.
Yeah, I mean, this could be the last few years. This could be our 7th straight loss. We haven't lost in February yet. That's a huge step up from the last couple of years whenever we lost every February game.
Yeah, so, with that in mind, everything is going to be okay. And here's Noah to get way more in depth and speak way more intelligently about what happened yesterday than we possibly can, just the three of us.
Hey, Panther Nation. Have you ever crashed your spin scooter going down Cardiac Hill? Or wiped out on an icy sidewalk in South Oakland? Have you ever been hit by a bus crossing Forbes Avenue? Well, you may not have to pay that hospital bill on your own. If you're hurt in an accident, pick up the phone and call Guido at Gurrera Law. Guido Gurrera is a University of Pittsburgh Law School grad, Pitt football superfan, and experienced personal injury attorney who's licensed in Pennsylvania and Ohio. And it is 100% free to call him for consultation on your personal injury case. So the next time you get rear-ended in Oakland rush hour traffic, or if you fall down the stairs at Peters, call Guido. All joking aside, Oakland and the world can be a very dangerous place. If you need legal help, talk to Guido. He'll treat you like a fellow Pitt fan and never like a number. 412-229-7757 is the number to call. That's 412-229-7757 to call Guido. You can also contact Gurrera Law at gurreralaw.com. That's Gurrera. Call Guido today.
Please welcome to the show Pitt Athletics beat writer for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, Noah Hiles. Noah, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, guys. I gotta say, I've been invited on like a lot of shows since I started, covering Pitt. But this was the invite I've been waiting for. I ran into a couple of you guys at a bar during football
Say the
season.
bar. Say the bar.
Sloppy Joe's on Mount Washington.
Hell yeah.
A classic little joint there. But I think I ran into Dylan. And then I was like, I would love to come on. And I'm not normally like a guy who's like thirsty to try to get on other people's shows, but this is the voice of the people. And if I'm gonna build my brand as a Pitt reporter, I've gotta intermingle with the real people who are in the trenches, making the great memes on Twitter, going to war with opposing fan bases. These are the people I need to get to know. And so I'm honored to be on.
You came to the right place.
Yes.
I don't know. I think interacting with us can only make you dumber and worse at your job as like an actual journalist.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be hanging around with us at too much, but when you go to a great establishment like Sloppy Joe's, bound to run into some hooligans like us.
You're gonna run into someone because the place is like 3 feet wide. So
true.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. So before we get into Pitt's loss against Virginia Tech, their tournament outlook, all that good stuff, why don't you tell the uninitiated a little bit about yourself, your role at the Post-Gazette, and how you got here? Because you've worked with a couple local establishments, churning out athletics news.
Yeah, I'm from Western Pennsylvania. I grew up in Washington County. Went to Burgettstown High School. Went to college at the University of Mount Union, Division III powerhouse. That's like my one thing they teach you. When you become a capital J, you can't have a rooting interest. But like I am a Mount Union stan. I go nuts for my Purple Raiders. They're currently ranked number 4 in the country in D3 hoops. We lost the national championship in football. We're a basketball school now, so we're on to hoops. So we're gonna get that first natty on the hardwood. But yeah, big Mount Union guy. Graduate, come back here. First couple of years at school, worked at pretty much every outlet in town. Worked for KDKA, worked for 93.7 The Fan, the Trib. I wrote a little bit for the Beaver County Times. Went to Canton, Ohio for a year, where I was a news reporter. That year was 2020. Not a great year to be a news reporter. Came back here, wrote for DK Pittsburgh Sports right when baseball started back up in July. Got real tired of working there very quickly. Left for the Beaver County Times in, 2021 sometime. Stayed there for a little bit, did some decent work, and the Post-Gazette offered me the opportunity to cover Pitt Athletics. So I've covered news. I've covered a lot of different high school, college, and professional sports. But, college was always the goal for me. I had Pitt season tickets growing up when I was little. My whole family is like still diehard Pitt fans. I kind of like got away from the fandom just when I was in high school because they were so bad with, the Ray Graham, Paul Christ era. And I'd root for the Whippeal guys to do well, but it was more just, I just loved watching all of March Madness. I loved watching all of college football, like all the bowls, all of that. And I kind of always knew that's the route I wanted to go for my coverage. So when this Pitt Athletics position opened and the opportunity to cover it with one of my best friends in the industry, Chris Carter, where, you said, hanging out with you guys will make me a little dumber. Well, it helps that, my beat partner's a lawyer, so he's got enough brains for the both of us. But it's been a dream since starting here in August. I mean, Pitt refuses to like be bad at really any sport that we cover. That's one part of it. And then the other part of it.
Coincidence? Do you think you're tied to the success
no,
of this
I
athletics
definitely
program?
am not responsible for anything. I don't have any good luck associated with me in any way, shape, or form. They probably would have won the national championship if I wasn't on the beat, honestly.
Ooh.
But overall, it's just been a blast. And like the cool part about it with the PG, I mean, we're still the only outlet in town that really sends someone to every single thing. And so when Chris and I both started, they asked us, they have him doing some Steelers coverage and stuff. So they were like, hey, do you want to do all the road games? And I was like, yeah. So, I mean, there was a point I moved into this apartment I'm in now in November, first week in November. I was not home for 7 straight days until the first week of 2023, just because I was on the road covering hoops, football, volleyball, and soccer. Also, I was at both of their Final Four matches. And it's just awesome. I mean, getting to cover these teams, the storylines generate themselves. They happen to travel to like some of the coolest college campuses in the country and some really fun cities. And it's just been a great ride so far. And now to top it all off, I'm on the Loyal Sons podcast. So it's all downhill from here, fellas.
I was gonna say this might be the peak of your covering Pitt sports. So with doing all these different sports for Pitt, what do you think has been the most fun? Is it this basketball team kind of showing a resurgence? Was football season? I know there was a period of time where it probably wasn't very fun, but what's been the most fun for you?
Basketball, I would say. I mean, individually, like you just look at certain games, like the backyard brawl was unlike anything I've ever experienced. Simply, that's my first game I covered for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. And like, we're all Western Pennsylvania guys. You know how big that outlet is, right? And the history of it. Like, I was in my dad's basement the other day, just moving boxes around. And we still have like old Steelers art, like Post-Gazette copies when they win the Super Bowls. And like, I read through those names and like, those guys are my coworkers now. Like, so that's cool. And so like, when I'm watching that game unfold, it's like, you know, someone's going to keep the copy from this backyard brawl. And like, I got to document that. Like, how cool is that? So I actually have it in my living room. I have it framed and like, it says like the Pitt 6 and everything. And it's got Rodney and MJ Devonshire directing the band is like the main photo. And like, that's something that, you know, if the rest of my career is a complete and total failure, which probably will be the case, like I'll still have that moment. And the Sun Bowl is another one, but is just as far as, you know, an excellent game atmosphere and a very exciting contest to cover. But as far as like team, I went into this basketball season just being like, I hope this team is watchable. That's all I want. I don't care if they make it to the NIT. I don't care if they finish with a winning record. Those things will be fun. I was fully anticipating to be prepared to cover a coaching search in the offseason. Like that's kind of the vibe that it was throughout the whole beat. And I remember watching the first game against UT Martin, and Jim from Panther Lair, former guest, I believe, on this show.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show, came over to Chris and I and was like, this isn't bad basketball. And we were like, yeah, like, you know, and then next couple games were really bad basketball. But then since then, ever since they got back from Brooklyn, it's just been remarkable to cover. Every guy on the team has like his own unique personality that's just so fun to really dive into. And I've tried to space out some features on different guys on the team. And, you know, with the season coming down the stretch, I have some really cool stuff planned out in the next couple of weeks. And it's just been fun getting to really know these guys, you know, document their journey and see all the highs and lows. And really, I mean, they're shocking the entire country with what they're doing. Even if they don't win the ACC or, you know, go on this immaculate run, they turned around a program that was viewed by many as like unfixable. So it's been really, really cool.
I think something that we've all noticed as Pitt fans is this is a really fun team to root for because all the guys on the team. There's a lot of great answers, but you mentioned there are a lot of fun features. Like we see the post-game interviews, we see the tweets that you send out. Who do you think is the most fun player to cover on this team?
Greg Elliott. It's not even close. I mean, Blake is the most unintentionally funny person I might have ever covered. Like there's a clip I always like to use for when they were talking about like his steal at the end of the Syracuse game. George pointed out Michalowski from Pittsburgh Sports Now to me, but then I tweet it every time there's a fight on the court. Blake was describing the play. He's like, I looked to my left and there was a tussle. And like that clip I think is like gold. But as far as like unintentionally funny or like intentionally funny or just, you know, someone who's really fun to talk to, Greg Elliott's fantastic. I mean, he could be someone, I mean, he doesn't have the stature to be like a Charles Barkley, but he has the personality to be that. And I think like he could very well have a future on the ACC network or maybe on a Marquette type of broadcast team or even at Pitt. I mean, I don't know if he's been here long enough for them to want to give him that type of opportunity, but he's got a future in media, if not coaching. I actually have a story coming out about him next week that I'm really, really excited about. I've got to talk to his former coaches from high school and college, his family, and he's just a really good dude. And he's just very funny and very articulate with the way he describes the game of basketball. He's awesome.
That's
big.
cool. We got. Oh, go ahead, David.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say that's cool. You said Greg Elliott, but I was also like, when Squid asked who's the most fun to cover, you could have probably said 5 different guys, and I would have said, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." Like I was fully expecting the Diaz-Graham twins to be your answer.
We were waiting on a twin story.
They're great. I mean, all of them are great. I mean, Nelly's cool because like I started in the Beaver County Times, so like my career. So like I've known I covered Brandon's like first high school game, his little brother, and like I remember reading about like I interviewed Nelly numerous times when he was at Colgate, just as like hit local guys playing in the March Madness. So I've known Nelly for a while. I mean, Greg's great, Blake's great, like Fetty is really. I mean, you couldn't get a word out of him when he came here originally, but now like he's really coming out of his shell, and I think that comes with his increased play on the court. JB is a great interview. I mean, he's probably one of the more articulate interviews that I've had since I've joined this beat. But yeah, the twins are fun because like you're gonna. I hope I don't lose my job or get fired in the next couple of years for many reasons. But the twins are someone you're like, I can't wait to watch these two develop into whatever they're going to be, on and off the court. I think they're very, you could just tell, like the one game where they were both at the post-game podium, it was after Louisville at home. Capel the whole time is just sitting there, like he's like covering a smile. Like they make everyone smile. They're very goofy. They play with like so much joy and passion, and they're so much fun to cover on the court. But there's so much to uncover off the court. And those are two guys I kind of want to, let it organically develop. Like, let's see them take on a bigger role. Let's let them learn a little bit better English and then, dive in. Cause like there are so many. That's a gold mine of content there. And I can't wait to get to know them better.
We think that they have like Steven Adams interview potential.
Oh, yeah. Well, we were talking, George, Kristen, and I all drove back from Virginia Tech together, and we said a strategy for the offseason could be just to send them back to Florida with Blake, and let Blake be like their Rocky trainer. Because like Blake just I don't know this for a fact, but Blake strikes me as a guy who probably just like does like 5 sets on bench, plays basketball for 10 hours a day, and then comes home and eats like an entire bag of frozen chicken and a whole box of brown rice. And it's like, we just send them down to Florida with Blake. They're going to come back like talking with a Southern drawl, have like tattoos and like buzz cuts. They're just going to be completely different people. And they'll both probably be like all ACC, maybe like a Steven Adams, like you said. That could be the training regimen though. Jeff just buys them a one-way plane ticket down to Daytona Beach or wherever Blake's from in that area, and they just hang out there.
You're gonna send us down as a film crew so we can document the whole thing and turn out like
that would be
end of year docu-series.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to document that one. I mean, I've got some pretty cool access, but like watching Blake like be the nutritionist for the Diaz-Graham twins, like documenting that might get me a Pulitzer Prize. So that would be dope.
We literally were saying the one day that like Blake Hitson didn't play basketball for 2 years, and he looks like all he did was go to the gym, shoot threes, lift, and eat. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what the Diaz-Graham twins need for an off season.
Right. Yeah. And the Blake's just so damn funny, man. Like the one day he casually just talked about his football career. And I don't know if you read the story. I talked to his high school coach, and he was like, no, he wasn't just good. He was the number 1 tight end in the country when he was like a junior in high school.
Wasn't he committed to Florida State for a second?
He had an offer from Florida State when he was in 8th grade for both sports.
That's what it was, 8th grade.
And so same for Miami, but then Georgia offered him. We were trying to get him to talk about it, and he was like giving us short answers like, I have more football offers than basketball offers. We're like, what does that mean?
Because I just love basketball. It's like,
and then
the discussion of going to Georgia for football.
Yeah, and his huddle that some people posted, that's just from his 8th grade year when he played varsity football as an 8th grader in Florida.
Is that legal?
So yeah, he went to like a smaller private high school.
Okay.
And he had like 15 touchdown catches or something as this little 8th grader.
Christ.
They called him easy money. And he just wouldn't talk about it. Like he was like, yeah, it was all right. And then we asked like JB about it. He's like, oh yeah, he still thinks he could be in the NFL. And then just what a guy. I mean, he's I still think he could probably, like, I don't know what his NBA future. I'm not an NBA scout. Can't predict what will happen with Blake and his future in basketball, but just his build, he'd be worth taking a 7th round pick on at tight end. I mean, he's a big dude and he's very athletic.
Blake Hinson with a who was it? Jimmy Graham played basketball
Antonio
at Miami.
Gates.
Antonio
Yeah,
Gates.
Gates.
At Penn
Yeah.
State.
Morelli Cox now. Did he even
He's
play
the new
college
one.
football?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be another. Honestly, I'm getting excited thinking about pairing Blake Hinson next to Gavin Bartholomew in a 2 tight end set. But
That's it. I mean, what's dude's doing? Like, you've got this guy on your campus. Like, what do you? Pat's just sitting here too busy going on Sirius XM radio. No, I'm just kidding. But calling the NCAA clowns. But no, I mean, for real though, like, Blake could be a stud football player, I think, even if not playing. I mean, he didn't play basketball for 2 years, and look how good he is at this sport this year. So, I mean, maybe sitting out makes him better at football too.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, I don't know what his NBA prospects are, but
Yeah.
I mean, taking a shot at football, worst case scenario, it doesn't work, and then you get to do that sweet thing that basketball players do, where you can just play in a bunch of really cool countries and be like a god over there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we had Chevy Troutman on,
Yeah.
and we didn't get to talk about his foreign career much, but he just played in like 7 different countries that I would really like to live, and he just got paid to do that and play basketball, and I imagine the pressure wasn't all that high. I think that is a sweet setup too.
Yeah. I mean, I would do that. Like, even if they were paying, like, imagine what you guys get paid to do your jobs now. Like, you just get paid a standard wage, but like, instead your job was to travel to Europe and play basketball. Like, that's still not a bad gig, I don't think. And then you come home, live in America in the off season.
If only we were all twice as tall as we currently are and had hand-eye coordination.
Right.
Unfortunate.
Yep.
So
Speaking of unfortunate,
there's the segue.
no. Pitt lost for the first time in a while.
We can't filibuster any longer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Here comes a dark cloud.
I know.
was it,
So
though? How
yeah.
was Castle? Because we talked a little bit before we hit the record button, and you said it was electric in there.
Oh yeah. So first thing I didn't know is, you think Enter Sandman for Virginia Tech, you think the football games, right? But something really cool that they did was they play Enter Sandman right after the starting lineups are announced, like leading up to the jump ball. And they time it perfectly where the jump ball tips off right when the lyrics kick on. And it's kind of like a European soccer thing where the entire arena sings the first verse of Enter Sandman while the game's going on.
No wonder we lost.
And like, it was unreal. I had no idea they did that. And then as soon as Virginia Tech scores its first bucket, they like stop wherever they're at in the song and start cheering. But yeah, it was cool. I mean, I've had the chance to cover some really cool games in different venues. I still think Cameron Indoors number 1. But that's up there, man. I mean, especially considering like Virginia Tech's not that good this year. I mean, they had some high hopes. I think they're a very talented team. But they're having a disappointing season, I think, for their standards. And the fact that they still packed that building, it was loud, and they played Pitt really well. So, I mean, it was tough if you were a Pitt fan and made the trip down there, but I look forward to the next chance I get to go back to that campus. I mean, it's a really cool town.
Yeah, we've always heard really good stuff about Blacksburg. So, I think there was a decent amount of nerve going into this game that it felt like, one, the Panthers could drop. They've been on the hot streak, but we knew Virginia Tech, especially, in terms of fans, would be bringing it. And we slipped up. Can you help us understand why? Because I think we were all seeing red from all of the moments of frustration to really, I think, analyze why Pitt lost. So can you tell us what the hell happened?
I just think, I mean, that game meant more to Virginia Tech than it did to Pitt. And that's not to say that Pitt didn't come out, ready to play. I think it's just Virginia Tech's desperate. And it really needed to win that one. It's a weekend home game, so it had a ruckus crowd. And I loved how the Hokies game planned the Panthers. The Panthers, I mean, let's be real. Pitt hasn't played a good team in a while. The last couple of opponents they've faced are the bottom of the barrel ACC opponents, Boston Colleges, Florida States, Louisville's. So, I mean, that's the first time they've faced a competent basketball team in like almost 2 weeks. So when you have that easier stretch in a schedule and you're in the month of February, it's difficult to get, to adjust to when you actually get punched in the mouth on the road. And, there's no shame in that loss. I mean, they entered that as a 5-point underdog, I think. And like I said before, I just think that that's a game that Virginia Tech knew it had to win. It was desperate. Pitt still has a lot of room until, we start worrying about the bubble status again or anything, in my opinion. And, what I'm more concerned about if I'm Pitt is the way it lost, because I think that was the best. That's probably the first time Jeff Capel got out coached in maybe the entire season.
Yeah, you mentioned that Virginia Tech came in with a game plan. What we definitely noticed was the lack of three-pointers. Pitt shot. It looked like Virginia Tech was trying to completely take that massive chunk of Pitt's playing style out. How were they able to keep Pitt from getting hot beyond the arc? Even taking shots?
Yeah, they just guarded that perimeter for their lives. I said, I think earlier in the week, I just mentioned, because some people were saying, like, just chatter in the press box or whatever, like, they should really get Fetty more involved. And I said, well, if Fetty's ever leading the team in scoring this year, that's a bad thing, because that's not how this team's built to win. And I looked at the stats like midway through the first half, and I was like, oh, he's their leading scorer. Like that explains exactly what's going wrong here. They camped out on that perimeter to the point where they were even contesting Fetty. When he would get the ball at the top of the key, it wasn't like a let him shoot. Their clear objective was do not let them breathe. And it started at half court and it went all the way to the arc. And you look like Blake didn't even have a chance to, shoot his 1 or 2 Steph Curry range type threes that he likes to take a game. They put all that pressure there. And not only did it take Pitt out of its rhythm from the 3 ball, which when it shoots threes, it's really hard to beat. It forced it to take tough shots from that area, and it forced bad ball movement. And when Pitt's not shooting well and it's not moving the basketball well, everything is thrown off. It's been able to win when one of those two things aren't happening. There's been games where it wasn't efficient, but it just shot so well. I look at a game like Wake Forest, where it's just like it didn't matter what was happening. They're just going to make everything they throw up today, and that's going to win. There's other times where the shots aren't falling from the outside, but they're playing an efficient style of basketball, like the win against North Carolina at home, where they can just get to the rack with Jamarius and score that way. But I think the applied pressure on the perimeter, and then you add in the fact that 4 starters had 4 fouls in that game, that's a perfect storm for everything to go wrong for the Panthers. And I think the rest of the year, they're going to be fighting to find a way to beat that blueprint, because I think that's Virginia Tech showed. You need to take away that perimeter. You need to play them aggressive, try to get them in foul trouble. That's how you beat this Pitt team. And now Pitt, with what I think is the ACC Coach of the Year and has a good staff behind them, they're going to have to sit down and really figure out, how do we not allow that to happen again? I don't have the answer for that.
Yeah, I think I kind of worried the same thing after the game. Like, obviously the initial disappointment was, we lost our winning streak, whatever. But then it was like, I kind of think Virginia Tech found something that other teams are going to be able to look at there, with you said, with the blueprint. But also there started to be some of those Pitt fans who were coming out of the woodwork, or Pitt fans, I'm going to put that in quotation marks, the people who love to rag on Capel and can't admit that they're having a great year. But I saw people start to come out of the woodwork a little bit and say, this is where the wheels are going to fall off. Do you think, in your eyes, is there any concern to you that Pitt could drop a couple in this next stretch and maybe play their way out of the tournament?
No, I mean, when we were talking about, we didn't talk about this, but I look at the second North Carolina win is kind of like a checkpoint, because they had that stretch where they had to play Wake Forest, Miami, and UNC. And it's like, wow, they got to find a way to win one of those games. Well, they won all 3 of them. And then after that, it's like, oh, well, look at the remaining calendar. If they can go 6-2, they're going to be in really good shape. Well, it's like, that's kind of how things are playing out. Like 6-2 means they have to lose one of these games. They don't just run the table. Like, they're doing fine. And this was one of the games where I've always said, when you looked at after that North Carolina game, well, they have 8 games left, only 2 quad 1 opponents. It's a quad 1 loss on the road to the defending ACC champion. It's okay, guys. Like, it's going to be all right. Now, if it loses Tuesday, we have a different conversation on our hands. But the thing about this Pitt team is, excluding the 1 loss to Florida State, it doesn't play with its food. It sees a bad opponent. It takes care of business. It gets the Twins out there. It gets the standing ovation for Fish. He comes out in the final media break, and I'm writing my game story, and I'm filing it at the buzzer on time. It's a rinse and repeat type of recipe. I think that's what we can expect Tuesday. Saturday, I would expect a similar atmosphere to what I experienced in Blacksburg to be in Oakland with that energy. And that's going to play a difference on what will otherwise, I think, be a tightly contested game. But yeah, this is the ideal recovery week for Pitt. You know, if it had Miami up next after Virginia Tech, I think maybe, there'd be a reason to be a little concerned. But it's not a bad loss. It's just not. And I don't expect it to hurt its bracketology or whatever you want to call it. It's still like a game out of first place in the ACC, and it still has the most favorable schedule out of any team competing for the regular season title.
Yeah, I'm just going to spin this. I'm not upset anymore. This is a good thing because it's a wake-up call. The coaching staff, the players can look themselves in the mirror and say, hey, if this happens, how do we respond? We all knew Pitt wasn't going to win like 12 straight. We weren't going to win the ACC, then make a Sweet 16 run. So if we're going to slip up, might as well be against a good opponent with a good opportunity to learn from it.
Right, and this is the time. I think something that Jeff talked to us after the game really stood out to me. He said this isn't something that they showed on tape, Virginia Tech. So this was something they clearly devised as a way that this is how we can beat Pitt, right? So it's better that this shows up now in mid-February than it does when we're in Greensboro or, in March, right? They have time to figure this out. And again, they have a nice little recovery game on Tuesday against a really bad Georgia Tech team who they can try all they want to do what Virginia Tech did, but they don't have the horses to execute that plan. So I think that the Panthers now, they've seen a kind of a different defensive look that no other team has showed. They can expect some different iterations of that throughout the rest of the year, but now they have time to digest it and plan, and maybe a little bit of even a reminder like, hey, any team can beat you, like don't get too high, don't get too low. And they've done a really good job of doing that all year long.
So this is acceptance. We have reached the final stage of grief.
Yeah.
It is 6:40 on Sunday, about almost 24 hours exactly since the game ended. This is the quickest we have processed grief for a big Pitt loss in a long time. Noah, thank you so much. You're like a therapist.
Yeah, you're welcome. I mean, were you guys beat up about that loss? I mean, that wasn't just an ugly game.
Not beat up, just
You're
drunk.
going to have that in basketball. You're going to have ugly losses every now and then.
If this loss happened at any point over the last 6 seasons, that would be one of Pitt's top 10 best games of the year. So I can sweep it under the rug and forget it happened.
The fact that we don't do the whole moral victory thing anymore this is a very big step for us.
I'm glad.
Being sad about basketball feels so good again.
Yeah, I was mentally preparing for a loss. I hate to do the before the game. I don't think we're going to win this one. But when Vegas starts coming out and shows us as 5.5 point dogs, Vegas usually knows what they're doing. And when I see Pitt fans saying, oh, this is a great opportunity to take Pitt, I'm just like, yep, this is exactly how they build a city in the desert.
I cannot tell you how I got at least 3 DMs from Pitt fans on Twitter, which don't ever come to me for gambling advice. I'm horrible. You can follow my burner account though for gambling picks at Fade Noah. I'm doing all right this year. But anyway, people were saying, why shouldn't I put the house on Pitt? I'm like, don't ask me that question. I'm not held liable for your finances at all. But I just said, I mean, Vegas always knows, man. Like the house always knows. And also, I you know, you guys are being open and honest here. I think I need to be accountable. Wore a brown blazer to the game. It's now 0-3 for Pitt basketball games. So I apologize.
Throw it in the trash.
Burn
But
it.
here's the thing. I wore it to the backyard brawl for football, and I wore it to the Sun Bowl. So
It needs a
maybe
break.
just keep it for the
So-
fall.
We busted out in the fall. Yeah.
Right. I've got a wide wardrobe, so we'll keep it on rotation. Unless, like, you know, if they're driving me all over the country and doing well, and I get tired and I just want to be home, maybe I'll just pack it up, and that way we can call it a season. And,
Yeah, I'm pretty
you guys will
torn.
hate- No.
I bought this vintage Pitt basketball shirt. It has a little like Big East patch on the sleeve, so it's sweet. But there's a hole in the middle of it. The collar is frayed. There's like these weird pit stains. So I feel really bad like wearing out in public. I look like a hobo, but I've
You gotta
worn it to like
throw,
4 Pitt
uh,
wins.
Throw
Yeah, the
flannel
flannel.
over top of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's the move now. But like the
Oh,
hole is getting
beautiful.
bigger and bigger. That's like right by my belly button. So if we lose a game while I wear that in the Pete, it's done forever. But as long as we keep winning, I gotta
Oh
wear it till
yeah,
it
you can't wash
disintegrates.
it or anything.
No,
Like when
no.
when you guys have those lucky things where
Yes.
you know you gotta.
I had a lucky polo, but I got puked on like really bad walking into the backyard brawl this year by someone I did not know. So that met its final resting place on September 1st last year.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a way to go. No, if we see the brown blazer on Tuesday or Saturday at the Pete, we're gonna have an issue.
Oh no,
all I'm saying.
it's got to go to the dry cleaners out on you guys are North Hills guys, little Dutch girls, cleaner on McKnight Road. They
Ooh.
do a good job.
And if you wear it and they lose again, it's going to the dry cleaner in the sky.
Right? Yeah. No, I'll keep it for football season.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the tournament because Pitt is going to be in that this year. If you had to pick, obviously you want the higher seeds, but is there a sweet spot you think? I've heard for Pitt to end up, because I've heard some people saying like, actually, I'd rather be like a 10 and have to worry about a 7 and a 2 as opposed to, you know, sneak in as an 8 and have to worry about like Purdue after a big win.
I think Pitt matches up favorably against Purdue. I was going to say, I think an 8 seed might be Pitt's best bet. Just because, I mean, if you get the 7 or a 10, then you probably got to go against the 2 and then the 3 in the next couple of rounds. Whereas, you know, at 8-9, you're looking at a game against a Duke or an NC State, you know, teams those caliber. Pitt's played those borderline ranked opponents pretty well this year. So that's a favorable matchup. And then you look around at the 1 seeds. I mean, Houston, I think, is very comparable to Virginia, who a team Pitt beat. There are other teams, like I think UCLA, probably not a great matchup for the Panthers, but I don't know. I mean, for a while, I thought a team like Purdue, who has a dominant big man, might be like the one thing you want to avoid if you're Pitt in March. But based upon how Fetty's played defense recently, I don't know if that's the case anymore. I think that Pitt, it all depends really if Pitt can get hot from 3, right? Like that's going to be the difference. If they could string together 4 games in a row in March where they can shoot the lights out, the team could go as far as anyone. But if it has a bad game from the floor, it's in trouble. Not saying it can't win, but you know, I think if Pitt plays its A game, it can beat pretty much any 1 seed. Aside from, you know, like I said, there's certain matchups. Don't like how UCLA matches up against Pitt. I don't like who else? Maybe
Alabama's
Baylor.
tough one.
Alabama's tough. Yeah, I don't know who they'd put on Miller. But yeah, I don't know. Kansas would probably be another difficult one. But teams like Houston, teams like Purdue, who I don't think are slouch opponents. I just think that the Panthers could handle their own against them. So maybe an 8. I don't know. For me personally, I'm just worried about the host city. I don't want to go to Iowa. That's what everyone's going to be reacting to the bracket or whatever. I wish they had a little camera on the media when it shows we don't have to go to freaking Birmingham or Des Moines. And it's like, yeah, we're going to Denver.
Tiger Woods fist pump.
Yeah, like we're going to be going nuts. Exactly. So
Who would
that's what
react
I'm rooting for.
more, the basketball team getting a 7 seed, or you, Chris, Jim, and whoever else finding out you're going to Denver as opposed to
Denver,
Des Moines?
Sacramento, or Orlando would be great. And also, my birthday is March 16th. So there's a very good chance either Pitt is playing in the first round on my birthday or they're playing in the first round on St. Patrick's Day, which will allow for me to party in a city the night before the game on my birthday or cover a Pitt game and then enjoy St. Patrick's Day on the road the following day. So I'm excited, and it would be really shitty if I had to do that in Iowa.
So to answer that question, you would be more excited than the basketball team themselves.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. I can't show that because, no cheering in the press box, professionalism only, capital J here. But no, I would be very pumped.
Do any of those cities have like a big St. Patrick's Day celebration? It's not like you can go, like there's no games in Chicago, right?
Right. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to imagine like Denver probably would have something. I mean, it's just like a fun city in general. Orlando, I'm sure. I don't know. We could. I'm not hard pressed on finding a good time on the road. I've figured out how to do that this year, time and time again. And I think I'll continue to make that happen.
Before we move on, we got to clip this entire thing and send it to Old Takes Exposed if Pitt just loses on like Tuesday and Saturday, and then we're just like NIT 1 seed.
You know what? Like, isn't the NIT final? And you guys don't want to hear this at all, but like the NIT finals at MSG, that'd be kind of cool to cover for me too. I don't know. I know you guys, again, you don't want to hear that at all, but
yeah, a lot of good that does us.
Yeah, I know. Hey, man, I get paid regardless of how they do. I'm just here to write the stories.
Enough of the losing talk. This is going down a bad path. I did look up top St. Patrick's Day parade cities to celebrate, and Denver showed up at number 3 on this list. So
gotta love that.
Be in good shape there.
All right, let's go. Let's go.
So do you think that 8 seed is, sorry to take us away from St. Patrick's Day, which is what we should all be getting psyched about right now. But do you think that 8 seed is kind of their ceiling right now?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think if Pitt wins out, I think if Pitt wins out, it probably wins the ACC regular season or at least gets a split. It'll finish on a 4-game win streak with capping off with a win over probably a ranked Miami team on the road. That might get it ranked. I know we don't like to talk about that. By the way, I don't have a vote. I have no control over that, no say.
We were actually gonna ask,
but no, we can talk about that if you want. But no, I think that if Pitt wins out, it'll probably be ranked, and I don't know. Like I think the ceiling for this team's like a 6 seed, because if Pitt finishes tied for the win in the regular season for the ACC and gets to the ACC final, or even if it wins the ACC regular season and wins the tournament, basically if Pitt wins out from here until March Madness, I think even a 5 seed would be possible. That's like the absolute highest ceiling. Don't know if that's going to happen. That would take a lot. But let's go through the resume though at that point in time. If it's going to finish 4-0 in the regular season, that includes a road win over Miami. If it's going to win the ACC tournament, that would include another win over a team like a bubble team, like a Wake Forest, a Syracuse, a North Carolina. Then you'd have to beat at least 2 or 3 more tournament teams to win it, or 2 more tournament teams to win that tournament. So I do think that, you could see a 5 or a 6 if all goes well. Now, I think realistically, you're looking at a 7 or 8. 7 or an 8 for Pitt, based on how I think it'll finish. I think it'll probably lose 1 more game throughout the regular season. Probably that Miami one. I think it'll probably win at least 1 ACC tournament, finishes with around 23 wins. Probably looking at like an 8 or a 9, maybe a 7, depending on how well it does in the tournament.
You got me a little hot and bothered talking about a 5 seed and double ACC championship. I didn't like that.
Hey, that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to, get the people going.
You succeeded. You mentioned the rankings. Do you like us feel that Pitt's kind of been getting the short end of the stick from both pollsters and computers?
So I have a story coming out. I think it's going to come out tomorrow. I interviewed Ken Pomeroy Friday.
Wow.
I basically asked him, I was like, why
nerd?
All of my followers want to know why you hate Pitt. And I think I said that exact quote to him. And he was like, I don't hate Pitt. My algorithm hates Pitt or something. His words, He's not going to make any friends in Pittsburgh based on the quotes that he gave me. And he just kind of sticks with his algorithm. He argues it's like all about efficiency, which I still don't get. I think Pitt's a pretty efficient team on both ends of the floor. But for one reason or another, it just comes down to people think the ACC stinks and Pitt's wins mean less and its losses mean more because of that. You could point to how the ACC did poorly in non-conference. However, as Capel pointed out, when I asked him about it on Thursday, it was like we had an organized event where we played another Power 5 conference and we won more games than we lost. So I don't understand the divide there. I do think you could really boil it down to Duke and North Carolina aren't playing well this year at all. And it hurts the conference. I mean, look at it in other sports. Imagine how the Big Ten would be viewed in football if Ohio State and Michigan both sucked the same year, right? We would all think the same thing. We'd think, oh, the Big Ten sucks. Doesn't matter what Michigan State or Wisconsin or whoever else was doing that year. It was, oh, the Big Ten sucks. And that might not be the case. And I get that that's a different sport with a shorter schedule, but that's what happens when you play in a league that's traditionally dominated by two blue bloods. When they're not doing well, the rest of the league kind of suffers because of it. And it's a harsh reality, but the good thing is there's going to be plenty of teams that get into March. This league produced 3 of the final 8 teams standing last year. I think there's multiple teams in this league that are capable of going to at least the Sweet 16 or further this year. And I think Pitt might be one of them.
Wow.
That works for me. I also was going to bring up the Jeff Capel quote about the Big Ten ACC challenge, because the Big Ten is just so good this year that they lost the ACC. And then I'm sure it happened. I think the same thing happened last year. What did the ACC get? 3 out of the Elite Eight teams?
Yeah, it had Miami, Duke, and North Carolina.
The story all year was how the ACC was down and it wasn't any good. And
well, the Big Ten had the most, but they all folded in round 1 and 2.
Yeah, and like the Big Ten, to me, I think the Big Ten's nowhere near the top right now. I mean, I think the Big 12 is without question the best league. I mean, it has the two, I don't know if every team in the Big 12 could win the ACC, though. I think that's a different conversation. But hey, those people have struggles with words in that state anyway, so it is what it is. But yeah, so the Big Ten, though, I mean, there's times where you would see like Purdue ranked number 1, right? And then there wouldn't be another Big Ten team ranked 2 through 25. So how in the world is Purdue number 1 in the country if all they're doing is beating up on bad teams? Because that's what the rankings would indicate, right? Now you're seeing a little bit more. I mean, you'll probably see Northwestern in the rankings this next week, and Indiana is really hitting its stride as a team, and a couple of other programs. But I don't know, man. It's weird. It's weird how these conferences have these biases. I think that I haven't ever voted for an AP poll yet. I probably will soon, hopefully. I try to watch as much basketball as I can, and I try to read not just – I do follow Ken Pom, follow the net, the RPI, all of that stuff. But I do also, I try to read just work from beat reporters like myself who cover these teams that are on the fringe, the Northwesterns, the Missouris, or even the powerful teams that aren't doing well. When a Gonzaga starts to fall off, well, why are they falling off? I think it's just doing your due diligence. I don't know if every voter does its due diligence, and that might be another reason why. But I mean, it's not a perfect system. And at the end of the day, I mean, March Madness always delivers, like there's going to be fun storylines regardless. I can't remember a time where I watched one shining moment and think, wow, that team really sucked as it hosted the championship trophy. So like, it's all going to figure itself out in the end.
So if you get an AP vote, what would it take to let the Loyal Sons submit one ballot one week?
I don't know about one ballot, but we could do a group AP if you're watching. Turn this off. I'm not opposed to gathering at Archie's and maybe doing a group consultation. I think as Jeff Capel said when we were asking him about his assistant coaches, he said the nice thing about being the head coach is you get final say. I think I might take the role of Jeff Capel in that consultation, but we could head down to Archie's, maybe order a pitcher or two, and I would at least listen to what the Loyal Sons have to say.
I will come with a binder full of anti-Big Ten propaganda.
Listen, like you guys could pitch me Like get a little projector. We can make it a whole thing. Probably shouldn't advertise it. Maybe that wouldn't result in me.
I was
going to
say we need to record this.
Maybe we could. I don't know. I don't know how close I ideally I'd like to have one soon, but yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. At the end of the day, like, I'm gonna vote for what I think, but I do think that, just limiting your own thoughts. I think it's good to get different perspectives on things. Maybe not just perspective from 3 diehard Pitt fans, but I think it is good to talk. I like when other voters talk to each other. And the guy who votes in Pittsburgh right now is Jerry DePaula from the Trib, and he'll ask our thoughts all the time. What do you think? And to his credit, he's been one of the first people to put Pitt on his ballot. And, and we would ask him why he wasn't at first or why he does now. And I think it's good to have that this mentality of, it's like, no, don't look. It's not a test, man. Like, your answers are shared to the general public every week. So, like, we're going to know. So why not just talk about it and communicate? Because you might learn something about another team when you have the dialogue. And, so the Loyal Sons might be my information system. Forget Ken Palm and Net. I got John, David, and Dylan. Those are my 3 analytics machines right there.
I can tell that we're going to be friends.
Yeah.
We're going to lose Noah his AP vote before he even gets it.
Yeah, I'm going to.
Fast.
Yeah, real quick.
The Loyal Sons analytics, strictly off our algorithm, no biases included, does have Pitt at number 1 right now.
Okay, interesting.
It also has UPJ at number 2 and Ohio University at number 3 because we are true homers.
Okay. OU, yeah. I mean, great Halloween. They just got an Aliquippa kid to go there. I can get behind Ohio.
They did, yeah.
Yes, Donovan Walker, great kid, great family. They were in the tournament a couple years ago, I believe, right? Didn't they have that kid who, like,
Jason Preston?
Didn't know how to play basketball or something and got really good all of a sudden?
He was on his local community college's C team.
That's right.
And tried out for OU and made it and became the star. But for Dylan and Squid's sake, I'm not going to walk you down.
I was going to say, as a former roommate of David's, I've heard this story upwards of 100 times, but go for it.
No. It's fine.
I feel like I got the gist. Like, I remember it. It was a cool story. Wasn't as great as, Mount Union basketball, Sweet 16 run during the pandemic year.
They're actually number 8 in our poll. Yeah.
They are? Where are they at? That's there we go. You want to really get my AP influence? That's how you do it. You go right to Mount Union.
They're number 8. I think we have IUP at 15 because my dad went there. We're very loyal. We're the Loyal Sons. I mean,
I agree. You're not.
Well, they're actually really good.
Sons.
We're the cheap and when it's convenient Sons, according to some of our followers.
My thing is this: it's ironic that you change your name to the Loyal Sons because weren't you guys Capel faithful, and then you lost.
All right, this is where the conversation ends. All right, thanks.
Oh man, it's weird. I hit the end recording button.
Yeah, no, we've gotten chirped about that a couple. We've gotten chirped about that a couple times. Like, oh, real loyal, the Capel faithful guys who changed their name when Pitt started losing. But I would argue that this turnaround would have never happened if we stuck with Capel faithful as the username. So
listen, you asked me if it was me, coming on the beat and Pitt started doing well. Maybe it was. Weren't you the Loyal Sons in 2021?
That is correct.
The real story is
you flip the switch.
There were discussions of changing it whenever we talked about our podcast. We're like, well, we're going to talk about football too, so we should probably make something universal for all sports. Mm-hmm. And then Pitt lost the opener. Was that to the Citadel?
Yeah.
And we were like, you know what? Let's just do it now.
Yeah. I just tell people it had nothing to do with Capel's record. It's just that the Loyal Sons is an objectively cooler name than Capel Faithful.
Yeah, it's in the fight song, right?
Hail Loyal Sons of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, right.
Dylan's going to say it at the end of the show.
There we go.
I'd argue it'd be cooler if we kept Capel Faithful throughout all of this, but
I think that
20 years from now, if you're that guy,
20 years from now, like the listeners are going to be like, I was on the wave back when it was Capel Faithful. Like I like that's gonna be like the hipster thing. Like, oh, you like Loyal Sons? Name three songs from their first album. Like that type of thing. Like they were capable. Yeah.
Since the Cable Faithful days, baby. That's good. That's good.
I've been a follower since those days. I've been on the bandwagon from day one. Maybe not day one, but early. Like I think I was like pre 2000 followers. I was in on it.
I'm gonna ask Dylan as a pop quiz. Do you remember what our first tweet was about? You don't need to name like the actual context, but like the circumstance.
Yeah, I do.
It was a meme about Gerald Drumgoole committing to Pitt. We were just through the roof.
Wow.
How did it work out?
Gerald Drumgoole now plays for Albany, who I think has like 6 wins this year. So
yeah, getting excited about high school recruits, as I've come to learn with this program, is maybe not the best idea. It seems like that might not be a problem with this upcoming class, but in recent years,
I've wasted a lot of feelings on kids who fizzled out at like FCS programs or were buried on the benches of larger programs.
But this recruiting class, no criminal records,
no,
all really good.
Not
will
to
be
my
good.
knowledge.
Won't transfer to South Dakota State, and they'll lead us to the promised land.
I'm.
Cool.
We were so like on a serious note, we were talking about what next year's team will look like on the ride home today. And it's going to be interesting because I think talent-wise, I don't know if there's a big drop-off at all. Assuming if Dior and Hughley both come back, which everything that I'm hearing, I think that might be the case, which is big, right? And you get Dior back, you get Hughley. I don't know where John really fits in with how well Fetty's playing right now and the style that Fetty plays, but I'm sure Capel can figure out a spot for him. And then I think Dior is probably a more naturally talented guard than anyone on Pitt's roster still. And it's just, what's the chemistry like with these talented young kids coming in, with a guy like Dior, with a guy like Hughley coming back? Not saying that any of them are problems or anything. It's just you're losing 4 players, but all 4 of them are like leaders, just real glue guys, just locker room experts. And the fact that they had 4 of them this year, I think really, really played a big factor in this team having such great chemistry, being able to play together so well. So while I do think there's a very good chance that Pitt basketball could be more talented next year than it is this year, who's the leader on next year's team? Is it Blake? Maybe. I don't know. I'm interested to see what Blake Henson will be like as the old man in the locker room. Do you go get someone else from the portal? And how many times can you really rely on finding a guy like Nelly Cummings and that working out, and building into a chemistry that's now it's already been built. It's already been established. So how will that work? I'm really interested to see, because the talent's going to be there next year, but I don't know who the leader is, and it'll be fun to watch.
Well, we're definitely going to have you on before then to give the full preview once the dust settles with the transfer portal.
Yeah.
And we see who comes and goes because NCAA basketball year 2023, there's going to be movement. But
yeah,
we're very hopeful for the future, and we're definitely going to have you on to preview next season and really get into the weeds on this.
After this year's Elite 8 run.
I'll keep the brown and blazer back in Brookline, fellas. I'll make sure it stays home.
Awesome. Well,
wait, are you in Brookline?
Yeah.
I literally just moved here last week.
Oh, my guy.
We're neighbors now.
Let's go.
It'll make things even easier.
There we go.
Dylan, drop your new address for everyone.
So it is.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Noah, we really appreciate all your time. This was awesome. Loved every second of it. Leave the brown blazer at home and go to Denver or Orlando and bring us home a national championship. It's an order.
All right, I'll do my best, Coach. Hey, guys, I just want to say thanks for having me on. This was a lot of fun. to your millions of listeners. Don't take anything I said too seriously or, anything like that. We're just having fun here. We're just chopping it up. It's been really cool covering this beat. I hope you guys enjoy all my coverage.
Awesome. Well, yeah, we appreciate you coming on, Noah. I think you earned some brownie points with Pitt fans as well. So
Awesome.
Win-win for everyone. So as always, man, appreciate it. And hail to Pitt. This segment is brought to you by Rhoback. There's only one way to describe Rhoback, and it's best fit, best feel. Their performance polos are hands down the best polos out there. Not only do they have the coolest designs, but also breathable and moisture wicking. I'm rocking a quarter zip right now. Definition of versatile. You can wear them to the office, to the gym, on the links. Golf season's coming up, so go get you one. The hoodies, comfiest thing ever. Squid got one on right now. These, I can't even describe how comfortable it is. They gave us 3 pieces of clothing, the polo, the quarter zip, and the hoodie, and they are, in no particular order, the 3 comfiest, nicest things I own officially. So,
yeah, I can't take it off. It's so good for laying down. It's so good for running and moving around in, if that's like a thing that you do.
So everything. It's good for anything, whether you're laying around being fat or if you're out running around. I went for a jog today in this, and it was perfect.
So if you want some Rhoback, trust me, you do. Use the code LoyalSons on Rhoback.com for 20% off your first order. That's spelled RHOBACK.com. That's 20% off all polos, Q-zips, hoodies, and tees with the code LoyalSons.
And if it's not your first time, just make a new email address.
Yep, that's first-time orders only for the 20% discount.
Thank you again to Noah for joining us. Really insightful. Really enjoyed talking to him. We spent about an hour after we stopped recording just shooting the shit about Pitt football and Pitt basketball and sharing stories. So he will definitely be back on the show to catch up again. But before we send it out for the afternoon, let everyone get started with their weeks. Squid, Dylan, some final thoughts.
I wanted to give a shout out to Alderdice High School winning yet another City League title in basketball. Coach Crummy has them rolling. They're definitely one of the best teams in all of Western PA this year. They have a good chance to make a run in 6A. So the game was held at the Cooper Fieldhouse down at Duquesne. Pretty beautiful new facility. I know we don't talk too much Duquesne on this podcast, but for what it's worth, the games there are probably better suited for high school championships are probably better suited for that arena than the Pete, because the Pete, you can't really fill it up. It's a 12,000 seat arena. Only one team in the city can fill up the Pete, and that's our Pitt Panthers. But pretty cool environment. So congrats to them. Obama runners up. A lot of guys I've coached play for both those teams. So awesome to see some really good City League basketball today.
Love to see it. Dylan, you mentioned that only the Pitt Panthers can fill up the Peterson Event Center. And my final thought is that we have a sellout coming up on Saturday. You won't be hearing from us before then. So I just wanted to get the message out now that I'm putting it on the Oakland Zoo to really go all out. This is a big one, if for no other reason than the head coach of Syracuse accused Pitt of buying a team, and we cannot let such a thing go unpunished. So we need big cutouts of Jim Boeheim or the Monopoly Man, print fake money with Jeff Capel's face on it, signs of Jim Boeheim picking his nose. Just really get creative with it. Yeah. You guys are college kids. You're young. You're creative. You were built for this. The house is going to be rocking. Please make this the second worst night of Jim Boeheim's life.
You remember that one Steven Adams cutout where his arms can move? They had like the little hinges. I think we need one of those with Jim Boeheim, but it's his finger going up his nose, just up and down, like right behind the hoop for all the free throws. I'm putting it out there.
That is
any
great.
Zoo listeners,
yeah. So if you were in the zoo and listening, please make it happen.
My final thought. I mean, today is, what is it, February 19th? I golfed 18 holes today. It was actually beautiful. I used some brand new golf balls with the Pitt logo on them. I only lost 2 out of the 3, so I consider that a success. They did not have hot dogs at the turn, so that was disappointing. But
Ooh.
aside from that, I cannot complain. What a day.
Yeah, gotta love unseasonably warm days, even, with the implication of the death of the planet or whatever. But hey, I'm really happy you got your golf in.
Yeah.
Shout out to global warming. Been clutch this year.
Yeah, pretty huge.
Nice.
All right, well that's today's show.
We're tired. We're coming off a Pitt loss.
We didn't have
Tomorrow's Monday.
we didn't have a love for the intro. We should have said if you love global warming and hate ref shows.
If you love if you love global warming and hate ref shows,
This is the
this is the place for you.
Yeah, we're just big global warming guys.
Huge.
Go Pitt. Go Exxon.
Lit a couple tires on fire outside my house today.
Perfect.
Doing
All right.
my part.
Well, as always, hail loyal sons of Pittsburgh.
Are you or someone you know looking for work in a recession-proof industry? Are you someone that's interested in things like having health care, having a 401k, immediate PTO accrual, an employee assistance program, or referral payouts? Our newest sponsor, Haddad Accelerated Delivery, an Amazon delivery partner, is looking for safety-minded and dependable drivers to join their delivery service team. Be a part of a company that will encourage self-ownership and award bonuses based on exceptional safety and delivery efforts. This is the ideal gig for individuals seeking full-time work or students interested in making some pretty good money during breaks. If you or someone you know is safety-focused, hardworking, organized, efficient, and team-oriented, text HADD to 464-646 to apply. I understand that is an impossible string of letters and numbers, so here it is again. That's HADD to 464-646. For a job that's the total package, get it? Because, it's deliveries. Haddad Accelerated Delivery is the place for you.